Legend El Dorado. El Dorado refers to the legendary kings of the Muisca or Chibcha people who populated the northern Andes in present-day Colombia, from the year 600 to 1600 of the Christian era, and the name is especially associated with their coronation ritual carried out in the Laguna de Guatavita, north of present-day Bogotá. Over time, the meaning of El Dorado was extended to refer to a lost golden city and even to an entire region. When the Spanish conquistadors heard the incredible stories of a city paved with gold, they tried to find it by any means possible. However, the Spanish explorers and treasure hunters who followed never found the fabulous treasures of El Dorado. The importance of gold in the cultures of ancient Colombia. Gold had long been a popular material for metal workers. In reality, the metal did not have a particular value as currency, rather than as a raw material for exchange. In fact, it seems that unlike other American cultures, gold was not limited to the nobility, but was also property of the lower strata of society. Beyond its intrinsic value, gold was valued for its brilliance and incorruptibility, also for its spiritual associations, especially those related to the sun, and for the ease of working in the hands of artisans. Skilled Muisca artisans produced impressive works of art using the full range of the repertoire at the goldsmith's disposal, especially the lost wax technique. Gold and gold alloy works of art were offered in large quantities to the gods, and buried in sacred places to maintain the balance of the cosmos and prevent natural disasters. Very often, the offerings were figurines known as tunjos, which represented in great detail people carrying objects such as shields, weapons, and musical instruments. The most famous example of a tunjo is a golden raft with golden figures spread over it, the importance of which is discussed below. The raft was found in a clay pot inside a cave and now remains in the Gold Museum in Bogotá. The Muisca valued gold for its luster, its incorruptibility, and its association with the sun. So driven were the Spanish by their set of wealth, that the official objective of the Spanish government, in exploring northern South America, was in fact to find gold, melt it down, and ship as much as possible back to Europe. The association between ancient Colombia and the precious metal is further reflected in the Spanish king's choice of name for his new territory, Castillo del Oro. Of all the stories about gold and emeralds scattered throughout ancient Colombia, there was one in particular that particularly aroused the interest of the Spanish invaders. This was an account told by eyewitnesses that involved lavish ceremonies performed during the coronation of a Muisca king. The Golden Man. The legend of El Dorado appears in most Spanish accounts of the conquest of the region as well as in Fernández de Oviedo's General and Natural History of the Indies from 1535–1548, but was later documented in greater detail by Juan Rodriguez Friel in the year 1636, who stated that the details had been told to him by the nephew of the last ruler of Guatavita. One of the earliest depictions of the legend in art comes from a 1599 drawing by Theodore de Bray, showing two attendants applying gold to the body of a third individual. According to legend, among the Muiscas, when it was necessary to crown a new monarch, the man who would be king would prepare for his great day with a period of abstinence. Confined in a cave, peppers, salt, and women were forbidden to him. When the day of the coronation finally arrived, the future king would travel to the Guatavita lagoon, a remote lagoon formed in an extinct volcanic crater, in order to make offerings to the gods so that they would bless his reign. This he did by going to the center of the lake on a raft. The raft, made of reeds, was laden with treasures of gold and emeralds, and 4 large incense burners were placed on it. The incense was called moke, and the braseros, to which were added those placed around the shores of the lake, gave off clouds of thick smoke that must have added mysticism to the ceremony. Although the most fantastic treasure of all being in itself, the very person of royalty, was stripped naked and completely covered with a sticky layer of resin, on which a fine gold dust had been blown. The result was a shining man of gold, literally a golden man, from which the name El Dorado comes. Also on the raft were 4 helpers, less spectacularly dressed but still laden with heavy gold jewelry on whatever part of their bodies it could be hung from. The big moment came when, accompanied by trumpets and songs on the banks, the raft reached the very center of the lagoon. At that moment, silence fell over the crowd and the helpers threw the fabulous treasure of gold and jewels into the lagoon, and the people on the banks also threw their gold offerings into the sacred waters. The climax of the ceremony came when the Golden King himself jumped into the lagoon, and when he came out, clean of gold, he then became the king of the Muiscas, the Sipa. Later history. From Sir Walter Raleigh to 20th century explorers, extravagant and expensive expeditions have been organized over the centuries to find gold in its riches, but none has been successful. In the 1580s, Antonio de Sepulveda had perhaps the most ambitious plan to find gold when he cut a piece of the crater rim of Laguna de Guatavita to drain it and find the treasure that must have accumulated on the lagoon bed for centuries of coronation ceremonies. Some gold artifacts were found around the edges of the lagoon, but before the lagoon could be completely drained, a landslide blocked the cut, thus the lagoon's water level began to rise again. Faced with a riot by the local population, the Spanish were forced to abandon their search. Another ambitious expedition in 1909 involved the English company Canrichter Limited. They also sought to drain the lagoon and were more successful than the Spanish. The method this time was to dig a tunnel under the lagoon and drain it that way. However, when the lagoon was emptied, another problem arose, and that was that the soft mud bottom of the crater was too deep to support any weight, and worse still, the mud was quickly heated by the sun and hardened like concrete. They returned to Bogotá for the drilling equipment. However, the treasure hunters must have been dispirited when they returned to the lagoon, as in their absence the mud had also solidified in the drainage tunnel, blocking it so that the lagoon had filled again. With no more money to continue the project, the English, like the Spanish and many others before them, were forced to abandon the matter with only a handful of small artifacts taken from the shore of the lagoon. Therefore, the cumulative results of these expeditions have been enormously disappointing. Some gold has been found, as have some stone and ceramic beads, but nothing so far to match the fabulous riches described in the El Dorado legend. Perhaps, however, this is appropriate, since after all, the original owners of the gold and jewels intended their offerings to the sun to remain forever where they were delivered, at the bottom of a lagoon in the remote mountains of Colombia. Friends, thank you very much for watching my videos. I hope you liked them. I invite you to subscribe to my channel, share with your friends on social networks. I would appreciate it if you give the like button and activate the notification bell so that you do not miss the next videos.